Hello everybody, it's Andrew Hutchings here, still not a licensed physician, still never giving medical advice, it's just purely educational. And this video is energy-based medicine part 2, or whatever I labeled the last video about energy-based medicine, part 2. And it's pretty short. So in the last one I talked about how we're going to be able to use frequencies, wavelengths, whether they're energy waves or sound waves, to activate biological targets like proteins, or gene sequences, whatever it may be in the body that we want to target that we would normally target with drugs, molecules, we can actually target it by other means. So long as we can get it into the right conformation, to get the right things to come into place, to get it to open and close at the right rate, you can get the desired effects without an actual molecule binding on there. And this has been shown to work. I mean, our eyes are a great example of this. Our eyes have receptors just like any other part of our body, except instead of molecules binding to them to elicit the biological response, it's the energy from the sun and from artificial lights. So there's really no need to prove that this can't work, as long as you see, because if you're blind, I guess maybe you could think that this is impossible, but I'm pretty sure you would know too that people can see and it does work. So the natural limitations of that would be that you would have to find which waves get which targets to activate in the right way. But you can actually bypass this by simply getting the target gene sequence. I'm thinking in terms of genetics, not the protein targets. So you can get the target gene sequence, and you can put a specific sequence in front of it that is much more simple to activate, that is very predictable. And then you bypass having to figure out all the complicated stuff of how to get in the human body to activate genes. It's much more complicated than, say, a bacteria. You need many different proteins to come, and you need the stuff to fold right. But if you put a much more simple gene sequence and activating sequence in there, you can activate it a lot more simply, and you could introduce a whole library of these easy to activate genes and have a device, like a cell phone, that you can activate them at your will. So say you break your arm, well, you can activate genes for various different healing processes. You just click on, turn it off when you're ready, and the device would emit the right waves that would activate those genes. And you could make it so it wouldn't activate any in the rest of your body. And of course, we would want to pick waves that are not going to disrupt anything in the human body, because even waves that come out of cell phones, I think the old GSM, like 1,800 megahertz, I don't remember exactly, wavelengths, those actually were shown to cause liver damage because it disrupted protein ability to let ions through. Because if you hit it with the right, it's like how if you are on a bridge and everyone jumps up and down at the same time, you can hit the resonance and get it really moving. It's like when you're on a swing and you do a little push as it goes up and then you push as it goes back, and eventually you get swinging more and more. But if you were to do it the wrong way, you could just stay at a standstill. Or if everyone on the bridge jumped at different times, it wouldn't move at all. If you hit certain proteins in your body, you can get them to just spasm up, to lock up, and not allow things through like they normally would. So you certainly wouldn't want that. But that's the beauty of making this custom designer genome library that can be introduced into the human body. We choose the best activating sequences that have the least harmful effects for the rest of the body. And now, say you get a little infection. Well, maybe you decide you want to ramp up your interferon, get those parts of the virus broken down and presented on the cells, and make antibodies, a lot more of them, a lot faster. Because why should you wait to get really sick and wait a few weeks to get a lot of antibodies and finally get better? Like, it is nice to get the antibodies and go through that sickness rather than just wipe it out with drugs. Because if you wipe it out with drugs right when you get it, your body doesn't have it long enough to make the antibodies, very likely. But what if you could just expedite that process of making the antibodies and getting rid of it naturally? That'd be much better than taking the drugs, and better than waiting for your body to be sick for a few weeks to do it naturally, because that does take a toll on your body. It's going to take a lot of energy from your body that's not being spent on other bodily processes. It's going to make you just physically tired. Probably you're going to lose weight. Now, it could be good for some people, bad for others. But it's going to take a toll on your body, whereas if you could wipe that out right away by activating the genes to get those processes ramped up, you'd have all the benefits and none of the downsides of getting sick. There's a lot of things this can be applied to. I'm not going to try to think of every example, but to wrap it all up again, making a custom library of genes linked to easy to activate sequences, because genes don't just turn on by themselves. They need to have a part in front of it that assembles the machinery to print out, whatever you want to say, the gene, and make RNA and then proteins. And we would put activating sequences that are very easy to activate with waves that do not disrupt other bodily processes. And now you don't need to you can do a lot cooler stuff than you can simply do with drugs. We could try to develop drugs that can activate these genes in the body. We have not done that for most genes. We are moving more in that direction. There are more medications that act on a genetic level now than 20, 30, 40 years ago. But drugs still have their inherent downsides. You're introducing molecules into the body which have off-target effects. They have to be metabolized. That can produce toxic byproducts. They have absorption issues. They have distribution issues. They have all sorts of issues. Of course, this new approach will undoubtedly have its own issues, but the set of issues it has will not overlap with the set of issues drugs have, which means that you can choose which is better. Now, I think we're going to be able to do a lot more with this new approach than with drugs. We can make those designer genes that we're introducing activated by drugs as well, by very non-toxic drugs. The only thing is with using very non-toxic drug, I'm sure we can find some very non-toxic drugs that you're not normally consuming. So yes, energy-based medicine we could also make it, maybe we should call this new genetic medicine. It can be activated with molecules or with frequency. I was just thinking it would be convenient if we had perhaps even just a cell phone app where you choose which frequency, which wavelengths hit your designer genes and turn them on. Who knows, maybe you're going to be going out in the forest on a outdoors trip for a week. It's going to be dark at night. I'm just making up something. It's not supposed to be the most common or realistic, but it's going to be dark at night and you want to be able to see better and you don't want to use night vision goggles. Maybe you want to produce special proteins in your eyes to be able to take in infrared light and activate receptors that gives you a feedback in your brain. Now, I can't say exactly how that would be since I haven't done it, and to my knowledge, nobody's done it. But that is the future. We can change eyesight. We can change whatever we want. I hope you like this video. I've got like 440 other videos. Website is andrewhutchings.org, where you can hire me for consultations, and you can buy my book on tendinitis. Unless you love tendinitis and you don't want to get rid of it, then don't buy my book, or buy my book and just don't read it. That's the best thing to do, because then you keep your tendinitis and you help me out by getting my book. My Instagram is natural_true_fitness.